Good morning and welcome back to Diving Deep into Eberron here on Gaming with ADHD. I am your host, Brian, and joined today by my good friend, Seraphis. How you doing today, sir?
Well, it's evening of the 5th, so you guys already had your elections, and I know who won.
Uh-oh. Well, folks who are watching this, after the fact. Okay, I don't get political on my channel, but just because we can do this, Seraphis, who do you think is going to ruin your country, your imaginary country, from afar?
Well, in a surprise twist, would you believe it was the Kennedy?
All right. So Seraphis thinks that, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will be elected president.
Well, more his brainworm, but
Okay, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s brainworm was elected president. When you watch this, comment down below and let Seraphis know how right he was. Anyways, I hadn't thought about that. That is actually kind of a funny twist of irony. But yes, folks, we are recording this early. Yes, we do try to do these live, but since I will be out of town while this is going live, we decided to record it early and set it as a premiere. So obviously, if you are watching this during the premiere, there is the live chat going. Feel free to jump in. Seraphis and I will try to answer your questions if I am available. I am on vacation, so I'm going to try and not annoy my wife, but Seraphis might be available a little bit to comment about why we said whatever stupid thing we said. So,
unless I take the opportunity to sleep.
Unless he takes the opportunity to sleep. So, that is anyways. So folks, regardless, comment in chat, talk amongst yourselves, or comment on the video itself and let us know what you thought. We'd absolutely love to hear from you. But obviously, before we get into this, do make sure you're subscribed. I try to put out a few videos on my channel each week covering all sorts of tabletop gaming content, whether it's board games, miniatures, role-playing, or anything in between. And we'd love for you to come along and see what we have to share. So, with all of that out of the way, Seraphis, should we go ahead and get started today?
Maybe.
All right. I love your confidence and commitment to the bit.
Outcome looks grim.
So, all right. So real quick before, while I'm getting things set up. So today, we are going. We're talking about equipment. Basically, just it's going to be lots of charts, so we are going to skip over a lot of information. But basically, if they created some unique things for Eberron, so we're just going to kind of point those out. Seraphis will be giving us a short mini lecture on the Artificer's monocle, because let's be honest, if it's related to Artificers, he's kind of excited. But because this is also a very small chapter, we decided that we wanted to add something fun. If you were here last week when we were talking about the Eberron cosmology, we kept talking about, going to space. Spelljammer exists. Spelljammer's the thing. So, why not go to space? And the creator of Eberron actually put out a semi-canon article about space in Eberron. And so we're going to read through that and, just show you how the creator thinks space would work in the Eberron campaign setting. So, without further ado, Let's see. Do you want me to go
To
ahead
be
and?
fair, it's his part one. His part two one is way more insane and amusing, but
Oh yeah, that's true. This is just part. We are just going to talk about part one because part two deals with actual Spelljammer rules, whereas the one we're going to talk about deals with more about like the actual cosmology, so the moons and getting to space and things like that. So,
yep.
Maybe we'll do another side quest with some more Dragon Mark articles. So, all right, well. Let's see. Whose turn is it to kick us off? Is that my turn this week?
I can kick us off. That's fine.
All right, go for it.
Okay. The well-equipped adventurer in Eberron must be prepared for anything and everything. An adventurer might take a trip to Shan's sewer dungeons one day, then head out to explore the swamps of the Shadow Marches the next. A quest might require a trek to the frigid wastes of the Frostvale, a hop to the steaming jungles of Zendrick, and a final visit to the lightless depths of Khyber. When adventurers return to civilization, however, the magic of the dragon-marked houses and the Majorites in their employ offer conveniences unknown in most D&D worlds, from soaring airships to public banquets where heroes' feasts are served. This chapter covers a variety of topics revolving around non-magic, for the most part, equipment that every adventurer needs to be aware is available. From new weapons to armor to adventuring kits, you never know what might make the difference between life and death when the action comes fast and furious. Well, they did go to space too, didn't they? And danger appears out of the darkness. I believe that was Fast and Furious 8.
I have
Was it
actually,
9?
I don't know. I've never seen Fast and Furious. Any of them.
I know the first, I want to say 3.
Fast and Furious, Eberron Drift. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh dear. All right. Weapons. Eberron boasts a few new exotic weapons created by some of its native cultures. Specifically, these weapons have been designed and developed by 3 distinct societies: the dinosaur-riding halflings of the Talenta Plains, the elves of Valinor, and the drow of Zendrick. It takes a special foreigner to learn to use such weapons, and in such cases, the natives might be convinced to craft a weapon of a size suitable for their guest. Beyond this, weapon makers throughout Corvair are willing to copy the form of an exotic weapon and sell it to willing buyers. Statistics for these weapons described below are found in the table of the following page. Boomerang Talenta. The halflings of the Talenta Plains use traditional boomerangs, simple curved, polished sticks designed to return to the thrower. Zendrick Boomerang. The drow of Zendrick use 3-pronged boomerangs to hunt prey. Some adventurers and explorers learn to use the weapon while operating in the Zendrick jungles, but few outside the drow communities ever master the intricacies of the Zendrick boomerang. A boomerang of any sorts returns to its thrower when it misses its target. To catch a returning boomerang, the thrower must make an attack roll against AC 10. Failure indicates that the boomerang lands 10 feet away from the thrower in a random direction.
All right, so hold up a second.
Yep.
Now, I forgot to look this up, and I meant to. But are you honestly telling me that the boomerang didn't exist in D&D 3rd edition until Eberron? Because I have like this could just be like a tiny little lore piece. Hey, drow use boomerangs, halflings use boomerangs, and just leave it at that.
I think there is a boomerang either in the player's guide or in the DMG but its stats are slightly different to the more unique version of the Talenta and the Zendrick versions.
So the actual stats are a little different, not just
Yes.
okay. We'll look, but regardless, I'm like, it's a boomerang. How could they not have rules for boomerangs already?
I'm pretty sure 5th edition doesn't have boomerangs.
I don't. I know 5th edition even less. Anyways, all right. It was just a question I had.
Yep. Valinor Double Scimitar. The Elves of Valinor use a dangerous and exotic double weapon with curving scimitar blades on each end. You can fight with a double weapon as if fighting with two weapons, but if you do, you incur all the normal attack penalties as if using a one-handed weapon and a light weapon. A creature using a double weapon in one hand, such as a large creature using a medium double scimitar, can't use it as a double weapon. Talenta Sharesh. Similar to a scythe, the Talenta Sharesh, developed by the halflings of the plains, consists of a sickle-like blade at the end of a long pole. A Sharesh has reach. You can strike opponents 10 feet away with it, but you can't use it against an adjacent foe. Because of a Sharesh's curved blade, you can also use it to make trip attacks. If you are tripped during your own trip attempt, you can drop the Sharesh to avoid being tripped.
So that I actually think is cool. Like the Talenta Sharash.
Hmm.
You know, just because it's a fun idea.
And I will point out, the Valinor Double Scimitar does have slightly different stats to the Player's Handbook Double Sword.
Okay.
Because there is one, there are double weapons in the Player's Handbook, but yeah, again, these ones have different rules and such. So,
got it. Yeah, and so here's the chart for weapons and armor.
And finally, we have the Talenta Tangat. The Tangat, developed by the halflings of the Talenta Plains, features a curved blade like a scimitar's mounted on a short haft. Haft.
Okay. All right. Armor. A few new forms of armor, primarily originating among the Elves of Eberron, are available in an Eberron campaign. Statistics for the new kinds of armor described below are found in the accompanying table. Darkleaf. Similar to Leafweave armor, Darkleaf armor is made of carefully curved and beautifully carved pieces of darkwood, supplemented by alchemically treated leaves from the darkwood tree. Making armor out of Darkleaf reduces its arcane spell failure chance by 5% because the armor is so flexible. The maximum dexterity bonus of Darkleaf armor is increased by 1, and armor check penalties are reduced by 2. Darkleaf heavy armor is treated as medium armor for purposes of movement and other limitations, while Darkleaf medium armor is considered to be light armor. Only medium and heavy armors normally made of metal can be constructed from Darkleaf, and the most common forms are breastplates and banded mail. Creating Darkleaf armor requires a DC 25 craft check in addition to the normal craft checks required to make armor. Alchemy and armor smithing. Leafweave. The artisans of Eberron weave suits of armor from bronzewood leaves, which are then treated by a special alchemical process that makes them tough and flexible as leather, with considerably less weight and encumbrance. So, same rules for crafting as the Darkleaf. And that was it. Let me take the special substances since you went a little long. All right. Alchemy is a well-developed science on Eberron, and artificers as well as more traditional spellcasters explore new ways to enhance the adventuring profession through alchemy. The cost and weight of each of these materials is given in the goods and services table on the following page. Acidic fire. This alchemical concoction combines the alchemist's fire with a strong acid. A direct hit with acidic fire deals 1d4 points of acid damage and 1d4 points of fire damage. Each creature within 5 feet of the point where the acidic fire hits takes 1 point of acid damage and 1 point of fire damage from the splash. On the round following a direct hit, the target takes an additional d4 points of fire damage. This damage can be avoided in the same way as for alchemist's fire. Alchemist Frost, a thin liquid that grows extremely cold when exposed to air. Functions like Alchemist Fire, except that deals 1d8 points of cold damage on a direct hit rather than fire damage. Deals no additional damage after the initial damage. Alchemist Spark. Alchemist Spark combines two substances that react violently when mixed. A flask of Alchemist Spark has two compartments that keep the two substances separate. Throwing the flask shatters it and allows the substances to mix, releasing a powerful electrical discharge. Otherwise, it functions like Alchemist Fire, except that it deals 1d8 points of electricity damage on a direct hit rather than fire damage, and no additional after the initial. Noxious Smoke Stick. A variation on the common smoke stick, this object pours forth extremely foul-smelling smoke when it is ignited. In addition to the obscuring effects of a smoke stick, a creature within the smoke of a noxious smoke stick must make a DC 15 Fortitude saving throw or be nauseated for 1 round.
Yep.
How crazy. Actually, I mean, I do think they are fun little twists on the items that they're based off of. So I got no issues with it.
Tools and skill kits. More specialized than the similar items in the player's handbook, these items enhance the use of certain skills or abilities in particular situations. The cost and weight of each of these items is given in the goods and services table below. Glyph book. Despite its name, this book offers no help in dealing with with magical glyphs of warding. Rather, it is a guide to the ancient scripts of Zendrick, useful in deciphering inscriptions found within the Cyclopean ruins that litter the continent. Far from complete or comprehensive, a glyph book presumes a certain familiarity with ancient scripts to begin with, at least one rank in Decipher Script. It grants a +4 circumstance bonus on Decipher Script checks made to read inscriptions in Zendrick ruins. Flame-touched iron holy symbol. A holy symbol sacred to the Church of the Silver Flame is made from flame-touched iron. It allows a character who can turn undead or censure fiends to do so as if his class level were one level higher than it actually is. A character does not normally have the ability to turn undead. Sorry, a character who does not normally have the ability to turn undead does not gain it by virtue of wielding such a holy symbol. See special materials later in this chapter for more information about flame-touched iron. Inquisitives Kit. Made popular by freelance inquisitives, this kit contains some of the most often used tools of the investigation trade. It includes containers of various shapes and sizes made of glass, metal, and wood, fine silk gloves, mundane dusts and brushes, tweezers, picks and probes, a magnifying lens, ink and quills, chalk and charcoal, parchment sheets, and a small journal for recording notes. It grants a +4 circumstance bonus on search checks made to investigate the scene of a crime or other mystery. And we can see all that on stuff we've already covered.
Yeah.
Wizard Spell Shard. A wizard can mystically imprint spells into an Eberron Dragon Shard rather than physically writing them into a spellbook. A single spell shard is about the size of a human fist and holds the equivalent of 20 pages of spells. Imprinting a spell into a spell shard takes 24 hours and requires the wizard to cast Arcane Mark. This unusual use of Arcane Mark requires a material component of powdered silver worth 100 gold per page. Once this process is complete, the wizard can concentrate on the shard in order to bring any spell stored in it into focus. The spell appears as silvery writing within the swirling colors of the shard.
So, is it me? Or is this a Jedi holocron?
This is a generalized Jedi holocron, or a Force uses holocron in general. there's some better ones in some of the other books.
We're not there yet.
I don't care. One of them is 500 pages of holding, and you use illusory script spell to write them all into it.
Okay, well, we'll get there eventually. But my point is more. I think this was a fun idea.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And especially because I'm like, okay, so yes, it's limited to 20 pages. So I don't know how many pages each spell needs. I know that's part of the mechanics. But regardless, it's something that can be like, hey, this is my normal spell book, so I don't have to worry about it getting wet, or I don't have to haul a giant spell book with me. I can leave the book at the actual tower or whatever. So it's just a fun idea.
It is. There's only one tiny little potential drawback to it, is that a shatter spell can shatter an Eberron Dragon Shard. But likewise, a targeted flame spell could burn a wizard spellbook as well.
Right, but you're not casting it from the spell shard. You're, using that to memorize your spells for the day.
Yeah.
So it should be in your backpack and not around when somebody's slinging shatter.
Or better yet, in a extra dimensional pocket, so that it's thoroughly safe.
Whatever. Yeah. Regardless, I like the idea.
There are belts of many pockets for a reason. That's what I'm saying.
Spoiler alert.
How's that a spoiler?
I don't know. I'm just being a dork.
I'm pretty sure it's just in one of the complete books or Magic Item Compendium. It should be pretty well known. But anyway.
Again, this is me we're talking to. It's fine. Let's keep going.
Warforged Repair Kit. Containing a variety of organic and inorganic materials, much like the Warforged themselves, specialized tools, this kit grants a +2 circumstance bonus on craft checks made to repair damage to a Warforged. Simple. You want me to continue with clothing?
Wait. Oh, I didn't. I'm like, where's the next bit? Oh. No, I'll do it. All right. Clothing. The kinds of clothing worn throughout the nations of Corvair is similar to that described in the player's handbook, from artisan's clothing to royal garb. A few magical fabrics found on Eberron can enhance mundane clothing. The cost of each of these kinds of fabric is given in the goods and services table on page 121. Darkweave fabric has strands of shadow interwoven with black threads to produce coarse but beautiful cloth. Character wearing Darkweave gains a +1 circumstance bonus on the hide checks made in shadowy illumination or dark conditions. Darkweave clothing costs 100 gold pieces more than a normal outfit of the same sort and weighs the same. Glamour Weave is a fine, light fabric that has delicate illusions woven into its threads. The color of Glamour Weave seems to shift subtly and is hard to describe, but this property makes for a striking and strangely beautiful appearance. A character wearing Glamour Weave clothing gains a +1 circumstance bonus on diplomacy checks. Glamour Weave clothing costs 100 gold pieces more than a normal outfit of the same sort and weighs 1 pound less.
It's fun is what it is.
Right. It's, I mean, a lot of that's one thing. It's equipment. It's common stuff. My only issue with clothing is, unless you're like those two pieces, okay, that's a good reason to mention it down. Darkweave, if you're going to be sneaky, if you're a rogue, whatever, knowing that something like that exists, yeah, that's probably going to be useful to your character. Glamour Weave, if you're doing diplomacy, meeting the royalty, whatever,
If you're
makes
a
sense.
bard, let's be fair.
Right, if you're a bard. I'm like, who's the face character? I don't remember. Whatever. Let's just keep going. So yes, it's the bard. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense to mention it. But then I was thinking, it's like, it's just clothes. So who cares? And then I started thinking more about like having to describe like what all of the nations wear and what they look like, and I'm like, that's getting way more into this than I care. So,
And you can see the different designs of the 5 nations once we get to the 5 nations book.
yeah. Coming soon. Maybe.
In 2034.
Right.
Okay. Documents. The countries of Corvair, especially the nations of the central region, place a greater emphasis on written documents, from forms of identification to letters of credit, than is seen in most D&D campaigns. The cost of each of these documents is given in the Goods and Services table on page 121. Arcane Signet Ring. The Dragonmarked houses of Corvair use these rings extensively for identification purposes. They resemble ordinary signet rings, but are set with gemstones like more decorative rings. Inside a large central gemstone, an intricate runic pattern, usually an arcane mark, becomes visible when worn by the person for whom it was constructed. It is extremely unusual for anyone who does not have the favored in-house feat to carry an arcane signet ring. Other members of a house, whether actual scions or important hired help, wear signet brooches to identify their affiliation. These items don't contain an arcane mark, but are well made from expensive materials. Such a brooch costs 75 gold. Identification papers. Most people of the middle and upper class, at least in the most civilized areas of Corvair, Undair, Breland, Carnath, Thrain, Zelago, and the Moor Holds, carry identification papers with them at all times, issued by national governments and notarized by House Civus. These papers present a detailed physical description of a person. The wealthy sometimes commission small portraits of themselves, the person's name and residence, and in some cases additional information about the person's affiliation, particularly including any connection to a dragon-marked house, royalty, or large institution.
So, real quick, I'm
Yep.
going to interrupt on this one. So it's like, the papers present a detailed physical description, and the wealthy sometimes commission small portraits of themselves.
Yes.
Are they honestly telling us that Eberron hasn't figured out magic photographs?
Oh, no. Like, there are commissions for many of the scions who use a minor illusion on their identification papers that creates a minor illusion when the identification is opened up that shows a minor illusion of themselves, right?
Right.
That the papers are official. It's just when you are super rich, you can get something really fancy made, basically.
I'm just like, it just seems like they go through all of this stuff, magic stuff. Keep in mind, this also came out in 2004. So like Harry Potter was well established at this point.
Yeah.
Like why they didn't steal something like that for like, yes, and like this house uses their mark to create a, an image of the person on the papers and makes it more official or something. I don't. It seems like a lost option or lost opportunity. That's what I meant.
You'll see that you might be slightly wrong once we get to some of the other books.
All right, fair enough. I'll wait.
Yep. Letter of Credit. House Kundarak, the house that carries the mark of warding, operates banks throughout Central Corvair. A character who has funds on deposit. Yeah. A character who has funds on deposit in a Kundarak bank can request from the bank a letter of credit, which allows her to withdraw funds from a different bank branch. For many characters, this system is a convenient alternative to carrying wealth around in the form of precious gems, jewelry, or coins. Letters of credit are always notarized with arcane marks, usually by gnomes from House Civis, making them particularly impossible to forge. House Kundarak does not charge a fee for issuing letters of credit. Because they're making bank on being a bank.
I like that. I don't. Okay, as a GM, I would totally ignore that. Yes, there is a fee, like 1% of whatever the letter of credit is for, or something.
No, why does the credit notary require a fee?
Because
you're getting charged 10% for the holding of your money.
Well, okay, so if they're charging you to hold the money, then okay, that's
Remember,
different.
They're the mark of warding. Their banks of their vaults that they store all the precious stuff in are basically impenetrable. There's zones of forbiddances so that you can't even teleport in.
I'm just saying, like, to me, a bank, usually you don't pay to put your money in the bank.
Yeah, but a bank can be robbed. House Kundarak banks can't.
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, you can, but are you really going to barge into a Kundarak bank and then try to bury underground into the vaults and fight through God knows how many Kundarak assassins and golems and all the rest of their arcane protections?
I mean, it could make an interesting story. I just don't see them passing up those fees. Like, here, I want to issue a letter of credit or whatever, to quote unquote Western Union this money over somewhere.
Well, I mean, there is a slight difference, because if you're asking to have them if you're asking them to take this money, give you a notary of credit, so that you can then take the money out at another location because you're literally moving, that will cost you, because you're depositing there and retrieving out somewhere else because you're essentially moving location, right?
Right.
But for, say, an adventurer who is coming back and wants to put some of the hoard that they just acquired put away because they're, loot goblins.
As we are.
House Kundarak is going to be like, okay, well, we're not going to charge you for the notary, but we're going to keep charging you because you've just opened up another vault, so we need to store your stuff in. Have you thought about selling some of it off?
That's fair. Again, it's just one of those things that, to me, it just seems weird that they're not charging you a fee to issue a letter of credit. So even with your argument, Seraphis, I would probably still do it.
Well, you can be wrong. That's okay.
That's fair.
All right. Letter of marque. The concept of letters of marque originated during the last war, when the rulers of the warring nations granted adventurers permission to attack ships and assets belonging to other nations. The Treaty of Thrainhold declared void all letters of marque that existed at the time, but the idea survives in Breland, though in a rather altered form. For a fee of 500 gold, the King of Breland now issues papers granting adventurers permission to explore and plunder the ruins of Zendrick. Though such permission is not technically necessary, wise adventurers are sure to secure it before using Shan as a launching point for expeditions to Zendrick. Those who try to sell treasures from Zendrick on the open market in Breland must produce a letter of marque or face stiff fines, on top of forfeiting the treasure they won on their adventures. And traveling papers. Anyone who travels across national borders is usually required to carry traveling papers identifying them, their residence, their destination, and their reason for travel. Traveling papers consist of a parchment sheet with the appropriate information and an arcane mark carried in a leather folder. House Civis, House Ryan, House Denath, and House Lander all offer traveling papers that are recognized throughout Central Corvair. And we have a nice little picture of a identification paper. That's your general one.
With a magical portrait.
Yep. You see what I mean? Hell, even my character in the 3.5 game that I'm in has identification papers with a little flip up thing that's got a turning silhouette of him, that magical picture of him that turns from side to side.
Sure. I just think it's funny that they said commission a portrait as opposed to like some like minor illusion or something else. Anyways.
Well, yeah, because they want like this fanciful, glorious image of them, not just a minor image magic copy of them.
I'm just saying, for a setting that purports to have magic all over the place, they missed an opportunity. All right. Food, drink, and lodging. The halflings of House Galanda, custodians of the Mark of Hospitality, offer a few common services in towns and cities across Corvair, as well as at sizable outposts along caravan routes and other well-traveled paths. The cost of each of these services is given in the goods and services table. In towns of significant size, House Galanda hosts Heroes' Feasts as often as demand dictates. A single Heroes' Feast typically has room for 11 customers who divide the 660 gold piece cost among them. If a group of fewer than 11 people wants an exclusive feast, they must still pay the full 660 gold piece price. Leomund secures shelter. House Galanda operates a unique sort of inn in many towns and cities across Corvair, creates Leomund's secure shelters on the outskirts of town or in an open marketplace that lasts through the night and disappear with the morning sun. Single shelter, as described in the player's handbook, sleeps 8 people, and the listed price assumes that 8 people are sharing the 280 gold piece cost. As with a Hero's Feast, if a smaller group wants a shelter, they must still pay the full cost. Meals, House Galanda Purified. Upscale restaurants offer fine food with a guarantee of purity only House Galanda can make. A dragon-marked halfling brings the food to the table and uses purified food and drink in the customer's view. One can also buy pure water from House Galanda, either for drinking at a restaurant or for carrying on the road. A pitcher of pure water fills a water skin.
All right. Sorry, just moving my page on my computer up.
No worries.
Okay, mounts and related gear. House Vidalis and the Elves of Valana are known for breeding superior mounts and selling them on the open market. In addition, the halflings of the Talenta Plains breed some unique mounts of their own, small domesticated dinosaurs. Halflings with dinosaurs. I'm sorry, I still love it.
I think it's one of its charms about the setting.
Yes. All these creatures are described in either the Monster Manual or on Chapter 11 of this book. The cost of each of these mounts is given in the Goods and Services table on the previous page. Carver, a close relative of the clawfoot. A carver is a predatory dinosaur about the size of a heavy horse, native to the Talenta Plains. Known on some worlds as the Deinonychus. Sorry. Pots and pans, I tell you. Known in some worlds as the Deinonychus, it is detailed on page 60 of the Monster Manual. Trained for war, its size and strength allow it to carry 2 halflings or a single medium-sized rider. Halfling scouts often ride carvers in pairs as they patrol the plains. An exotic saddle is not required for riding a carver. A carver treats up to 232 pounds as light load, up to 466 pounds of medium load, and up to 700 pounds as a heavy load. Clawfoot. A human-sized predator of the Talenta Plains, this dinosaur is the halfling equivalent of a warhorse. Well-trained and loyal, a clawfoot often continues fighting even after its rider's death. While a clawfoot would be considered exotic on many worlds, an exotic saddle is not required for riding one. Fasteeth. A fast-running plant-eating dinosaur, the Fasteeth is the halfling equivalent of a pony or riding horse on the Talenta Plains. An exotic saddle is not required for riding a Fasteeth. Glidewing. This pteranodon can carry several halflings aloft with ease. An exotic saddle is required to ride a glidewing.
I mean, regardless, dinosaurs, you can ride them.
Yes.
Generally, very easily.
Yes. With normal saddles, basically.
Right.
Mage-bred animal. An animal magically bred by a House Vidalis might have any of a number of useful qualities. Higher ability scores, most notable among them, and is easier to train than a mundane animal. A mage-bred animal of any kind costs twice as much as its mundane equivalent. And, Valinor riding horse. The horses bred by the elves of Valinor are exceptionally fast and strikingly beautiful. Valinor riding horses are not generally trained for battle. Their advantage is speed, not strength. Valinor elves do not usually sell their war mounts. And I just want to quickly point out here, in 5th edition, they made mage-bred animals and the Valinor war horses all Fey type creatures, which they are not.
I was to say, they're not Fey.
No.
They're elves.
Yeah. I mean, their ancestors were Fey, but that's like saying my ancestors, were monkeys. Like, there's been a few generations since,
right. And
we had full hairy bodies, basically.
Look, we're not going to do a deep dive into it, but I swear we should figure out a way to do some sort of review for the 5th edition book to just yell about it.
Dunk on it?
Yes.
Yeah, let's talk about how all the Artificer is basically just varying different shades of Iron Man.
All right, transport. All of the transportation modes described in the player's handbook are available in Eberron. In general, if it moves along the ground, House Orion probably controls it. If it moves along the water or through the air, House Lorander probably controls it. Independent privateers not associated with a guild or house provide transport for hire, but the most reliable means for getting safely from one place to another fall under the auspices of the two houses mentioned above. In addition, a new material exists on Eberron that is used to build some of the modes of transportation. Sorewood, grown and harvested on the island of Arenel, is used to make fast, light vessels ideally suited for sailing the seas or skies. Sorry about that. All right, Sorewood vessels move at twice the speed indicated for a vessel built with normal material. Is used to build Lorander airships and galleons. See new special materials later in this chapter for additional information on Sorewood. All right, services and spellcasting.
Yep. The dragon-marked houses of Corvair control certain economic aspects of society. Each house is a conglomerate of sorts, running businesses and industries related to the magical marks that some signs of each bloodline carry. The dragon-marked houses transcend the borders of the nations of Corvair, operating wherever supply and demand warrants. Each house offers services that few other merchants can match due to their size, their diplomatic status, and their power of the dragon marks. These services include transportation, protection, manufacturing, healing, and a variety of other functions unique to Corvair. If a dragon mark spell-like ability is not listed on the goods and services table, it is not a typical consumer good. Certain marks are more suited for use by hirelings, while others grant short duration benefits that would rarely be useful to even well-to-do or adventuresome city dwellers. As a general rule, however, a drug-marked character charges the same amount to use a mark ability as a spellcaster would charge to cast the equivalent spell. Some of the prices on the table represent intentional discounts from the general rule.
All right. Dragon Marked Hireling. The amount shown is the typical daily wage for house hirelings who possess a leased Dragon Mark. Such hirelings include tasters of House Medani, guides of House Thrashk, animal handlers of House Vidalis, butlers of House Galanda, scribes and translators of House Civis, bodyguards of House Deneth, and security experts of House Kundarak. Individuals with lesser and greater dragon marks are generally not available for hire on a daily basis.
House Canath. The artificers and mage-rights of House Canath earn most of their income by selling the goods they make, not through the use of their mark abilities or spells. One service they provide, however, is casting repair light damage for Warforged characters or the occasional household construct owned by the very rich. In addition, they offer their Make Whole spell-like ability to repair valuable items. Most items are less expensive to replace than repair in this manner, however.
Okay. House Jarasco operates the Healers Guild and provides most health-related services offered in Corvair. Hundreds of years ago, the house stole the healing business from the temples of the Sovereign Host and the Silver Flame by keeping its prices low and making house calls. Now, healing emporiums can be found in every large town, offering services from the mundane use of the heal skill to the magic of the heal spell, though few can regularly afford that expensive service, as was discussed previously. Aside from experts with the heal skill and dragon-marked characters, these healing emporiums employ small numbers of adepts to broaden the range of curative powers available. Adepts charge slightly less than the normal spellcasting costs for their services. Caster level times spell level times 8 gold pieces. I'm guessing the normal is like 10. So long-term care is offered on an inpatient business in a setting similar to a common inn, room, or barracks. The price indicated for this care includes daily uses of the heal skill for purposes of treating injury, disease, or poison.
House Kundarak. Most services of the Mark of Warding are provided by hirelings or used to ward the house's own properties. However, the desire to guard important books and the like provides a small but significant market for explosive runes effects. Wealthy adolescents view it as a mark of status to have a Kundarak explosive runes spell on their journals and diaries. The fact that a designated character can bypass the explosive runes enhances its utility as a service brought on the open market. The Banking Guild provides letters of credit, money-changing services, and secure vaults for wealth and riches throughout Central Corvair.
House Lorander Airship. House Lorander operates elemental flying vessels, usually utilizing bound air or fire elementals, to make rapid air travel possible across Corvair. Built in Zalargo, these vessels can sometimes be found in privateer hands, but the pilots of House Lorandar are renowned for their skill and expertise. Double the cost given on the goods and services table for passengers or creatures larger than medium, creatures that are otherwise difficult to bring aboard a ship, or passengers with excessive baggage. Airships have the advantage of being able to go anywhere, provided the pilot and crew are willing to make the trip. Travel to a dangerous locale, if the crew agrees, can easily double or triple the cost. Most Lorander vessels only fly between metropolises and large cities. To go elsewhere by air, you need to find a privateer. Since they are relatively new, airships have not come into widespread use yet. An airship powered by an elemental can maintain a speed of 20 miles per hour through the sky.
And I just want to point out that for the most part, when they say privateer, they're actually referring to the principalities.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, well, yeah, it's sky pirates.
House Lyra. Oh my god. House Lyranda Galleon. House Lyranda's galleons, built to specifications in Zalago, use bound water elementals to speed them across the seas. Double the cost given on the goods and services table for passengers or creatures larger than medium, creatures that are otherwise difficult to bring aboard a ship, or passengers with excessive baggage. An elemental powered galleon can maintain speeds of 20 miles per hour across calm seas. Even mundane sailing ships have increased speed when piloted and crewed by storm marked members of House Lyranda. Utilizing the house's abilities to control wind and weather, a House Lyranda sailing ship travels 6 miles per hour. Just quickly, I want to point out that, again, not in this book, and that's a shame, but there are underwater ships as well. Everyone has submarines.
I was gonna say, those are called submarines, right?
Yes. But they technically refer to them as underwater ships.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. House Orion coach or caravan. The coaches and caravan trains of House Orion make regular trips across Corvair. A coach is is a covered conveyance that carries up to a dozen passengers and is pulled by a team of Vidalis-bred draft animals. In addition to passengers, Orion coaches carry mail along their routes. Orion coaches maintain an average speed of 5 miles per hour and travel along Orion trade routes. An Orion caravan consists of a train of coaches and cargo wagons traveling together for safety or when large amounts of goods or other materials must be transported. Caravans take on passengers as an added profit generator. Orion caravans maintain an average speed of 15 miles per day.
House Orion Lightning Rail. The Orion Lightning Rail is a marvel of magical invention. When the kingdom of Galifar was at its height, House Orion and House Carnath took on a special commission from the king. The king wanted a means to connect the farthest parts of the kingdom that could move people and goods quickly and efficiently. House Carnath created conductor stones, wondrous items that, when arranged along a route in pairs, formed a conduit through which a coach could travel at great speeds. For propulsion, it turned to Zalago for a vehicle with a bound elemental. In this case, an air elemental to propel the coach through the conduit. When the stones mounted on a coach pass over stones arranged on the ground, a sparking effect is produced, giving the lightning rail its name. House Carnath provided the means, while House Orion maintains and operates the lightning rail system. A limited pathway of conductor stones are laid out throughout what was once Galifar, and the current lightning rail travels over these pathways. Today, conductor stone paths connect the nations of Onder, Breland, Thrain, and Zalago in the west, and Carnath and Talenta plains and the Moorholds in the east. The lightning rail travels at a speed of 30 miles per hour.
So yes, to correct what we said last week, there are 2 lightning rails running, basically split by, the Mournland.
Yep. But
all right,
is there actually any active rail, though? That's the key point, though.
I think that depends on what you as the game master want your players to have. Or maybe that could be the seed of the adventure. You have to go find the materials to repair a broken section of the lightning rail.
Or maybe your adventurers hired as mercenaries to guard the shipment of a new lightning rail, a new lightning,
The
the
conductor
train.
stones.
Yeah, no, the train itself, to move it over to the east side, because most of the track is still intact. It's just broken between Zelago and the east.
Right. No, but again, these are all different options if you want to just have a good old fashioned train heist in your Eberron game.
Or you could just, do it on the west.
Why you got to take all the fun out of it, Seraphis? Because
And
now
not just from you.
that's fair. Because you can have additional dangers, or you could have dinosaur. You could ride dinosaurs to raid the train if you're in the east. There you go. See, you want to ride a dinosaur.
Now I want to go watch Dino Riders.
All right. The gnomes who carry the mark of scribing offer a variety of services relating to communication, from notarizing documents with arcane mark to sending short messages rapidly over long distances by means of whispering wind. Written or verbal messages can also be sent across longer distances through the use of message stations. These outposts, found in larger towns and cities throughout Corvair, serve as origination and termination points for messages. Like the lightning rail, the service is fast but limited to specific locations. While House Civis offers written translation services, characters with the ability to use tongues can be employed as hirelings to perform spoken real-time translation.
New special materials. New special materials, in addition to those described in the Dungeon Master's Guide, exist in Eberron. These materials have their own uses and unique properties that set them apart and give them a place in this action-packed world. Bronzewood, this exceptionally hard wood native to Aranel, is useful in the manufacture of armor and weapons. Unlike most woods, bronzewood can be used instead of metal to fashion heavy armor and weapons. It is sometimes shapeable during manufacturing, and it keeps a sharp edge. Although dense and weighty compared to other woods, it is still lighter than steel. Items weigh 10% less when made from bronzewood rather than metal. Breastplate, banded mail, splint mail, half plate, and full plate can be made made from bronzewood. Armor made of bronzewood is somewhat less obtrusive than similar armor made of metal. The armor check penalty from bronzewood armor and shields does not affect high checks made in woodland environments. And yeah, last chapter's pretty.
All right. Bieshk. Mined in the Bieshk and Greywall Mountains bordering Droam, this rare metal is prized by smiths for use in jewelry and weapons. It has a lustrous purple sheen and is hard and dense. A bludgeoning weapon whose head is made of Bieshk has a +1 enhancement bonus on damage rolls, not stacking with magic bonuses. In addition, Bieshk weapons of any type are able to overcome the damage reduction of Dalekir, which are resistant to all other weapons. The market price modifier of a Bieshk weapon is 1,500 gold pieces. It is difficult to work into armor and offers no significant advantage over iron armor. Densewood.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I didn't realize that part about the Dalekir. That one.
The problem with doing this with Seraphis is that he starts getting adventure ideas.
I can't help it. Densewood. One of the most important products of the Forest of Aranel, densewood is a strong, hard, heavy wood similar to iron in its properties. It has hardness 8, comparable to stone, and 20 hit points per inch of thickness. The DC of for breaking a dense wood item with a strength check increases by 5 compared to a normal wooden item. A dense wood item weighs twice as much. Yeah, but
all right. Dragon shards are hard, translucent stones similar to precious gemstones, appearing in 3 varieties: golden veined Sybaris shards, Kyber shards filled with veins of midnight blue to oily black, and crimson swirled Eberron shards. Dragon shards are rarely found large enough to be crafted into items of any significant size. Most often, a small dragon shard is formed into a piece of jewelry to serve as a personal focus to enhance the power of a dragon-marked character. A larger dragon shard up to the size of a fist can be crafted into a larger focus item.
Flame-touched iron, mined only in Thrain. Flame-touched iron is rare and considered sacred by the Church of the Silver Flame. When mined, this iron variety has a speckled dark red color resembling rust, but when it is refined, it takes on a shimmering silvery hue. Adherents of the Church of the Silver Flame believe that flame-touched iron carries the particular blessing of their deity, and they use it to make holy symbols, weapons, and armor. Flame-touched iron has the same weight and other physical characteristics as iron. It possesses magical qualities, however, that manifest in different ways depending on the item it is crafted into. A flame-touched iron weapon is treated as a good aligned weapon for the purpose of overcoming damage reduction. Flame-touched iron armor grants the wearer a +1 resistance bonus on saving throws against the spells, spell-like abilities, and supernatural abilities of evil outsiders. A flame-touched iron holy symbol allows a character who can turn undead or censure fiends to do so as if his cast level were 1 higher than it actually is.
Livewood, another of the unusual woods of Aranel. Livewood is a green-colored hardwood with a highly magical nature. When livewood trees are felled, they do not die, though they stop all growth. Livewood can be worked like normal hardwood while it remains completely alive. In most respects, livewood is just like normal wood. A few spells affect livewood in different ways from normal wood, however. Plant growth causes worked livewood to sprout small branches and leaves, though diminished plants has no effects. Speak with plants allows a character to communicate with a livewood object, though such an object has no more awareness of its surroundings than most normal plants. Blight deals damage to a livewood object as if the object were a plant creature. A creature can use tree stride to move from one livewood object to another, or from a livewood tree to a livewood object, as long as the livewood object is large enough. Animate plants can animate a livewood object. Dryads occasionally make their homes in livewood trees instead of oak trees. Such a dryad looks no more kindly upon the felling of her tree than other dryads do. But the felling of her livewood tree does not kill her, nor does it end her dependence on the tree. As a result, dryads can be found within livewood objects, including buildings, furniture, and ships. Okay, that's weird, but also interesting.
You're telling me I'm suddenly thinking of all kinds of weird stuff I could try to propose to the druid in our party, who might somewhat be open to some of this weird stuff.
I know.
Like, okay, so it's kind of like having like a giant octopus and like once a week cutting off one of its tentacles to make calamari with, but then giving it a week to regenerate. It feels a little bit like that.
That calamari deserves to eat you if you do that to it. That's just messed up, bro. But it is also what actually that is also kind of interesting because you wouldn't necessarily want. Why would you cut down the tree? Just cut off a limb.
That's what I'm saying. Just cut off a limb. The tree can grow back.
Right. I mean, it even said the plant growth spell will bring out new branches and leaves. Like, and that's on a cut piece. So what is it going to do to a live tree? Talk about your regenerative forests. Anyhow.
Yeah, I'm so bringing this up with the party's druid. This could get really weird and really insane. Okay. Riadran Crysteel. The inspired lords of Riadra supervise the mining of a crystalline substance that can be alloyed with iron to form Riadran's Crysteel. Crysteel makes excellent weapons, and the crystalline component makes them resonate with psychic powers, or resonate with psychic powers. When wielded by a character who has at least one power point, a Crysteel weapon gains a +1 enhancement bonus on damage rolls. Riadran Crysteel has... that's just... Yep.
Yep. If you hadn't noticed, folks, we're skipping the literal mechanic parts of these. We realize this chapter is dry. We apologize. All right. Sorewood. Rare even in the abundant forests of Aranel, Sorewood possesses a magical buoyancy. Ships made from Sorewood skim effortlessly over the surface of the water. Sorewood is a necessary component of the airships and elemental galleons manufactured by House Orion and House Cannith. The speed of a boat or ship made from Sorewood is double that of an equivalent boat made from ordinary wood, and the cost is 4 times normal.
Just on that note, Sorewood is also used for the land sleds as well.
Land sleds?
Yeah, there's land sleds.
Coming soon, folks. I never ran into land sleds.
So there's land sleds which basically run across plains of like sand and things like that, right?
Sure.
And then there's tumblers which use an earth elemental enclosed in like a rock ball, and then a small air elemental inside that chamber for all the passengers so that everyone can breathe inside of it. And then it kind of earth glides down into the ground, and it's an easy way for people to kind of come and go when mining Kyber shards. Yeah. There's a couple of other interesting ones, as I said, like the underwater ship and things like that.
Coming soon.
Because
I don't know. What?
In 3052.
In 3052, yes. Because I don't know which book it's in.
Magic of Eberron.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry. Complete another tangent. Targath. Targath is a soft metal mined on the northern coast of Arganesson, often fashioned into parafets of health. Targath naturally possesses some of the qualities of those magic items. Even a small amount of Targath worn or carried on the body grants a character a +2 resistance bonus on fortitude saves against disease. Targath is, for reasons that are not clear, anathema to the deathless of Aranel. They shrink from its touch, and a weapon fashioned from Targath can overcome their damage reduction. Perhaps fortunately for the Undying Court, weapons made of Targath are inferior to steel weapons, imposing a -1 penalty on attack rolls and damage rolls. Targath has hardness... Yeah.
All right. And that's it. So that is all the special Eberron equipment. Like I said just a couple minutes ago, this was rough. But I do think there are a lot of really good roleplay opportunities, or at least stuff to give you that Eberron flavor. You don't have to like to me, I think the most useful part is just hey, here's what all the houses do on the regular. The players should be aware of.
Yeah, I would say that there are plenty more alchemical items and special materials in several of the other books, I believe.
Sure.
Including new forms of like exotic armor, exotic weapons, and things like that. And they range in being interesting ideas to really cool ideas to
why?
not why, but like okay, so one of my favorites is, I believe it's in Secrets of Zendrick. One of the drow factions in that use a material called firebrass, right?
Okay.
Basically, it's a goldish bronze version of mithril.
Okay.
However, it is elementally aligned to fire, and it's so lightweight they can use it as flying crafts. They
So
make things
airplanes.
called well, they make things called fire sleds with them.
Okay.
And yeah, like I'm not sure if you've ever seen Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
I have.
Okay, you know that glider thing she usually has?
Right.
Yeah, so it seems to be something like that, but there's an extra like railing on it for a second person, and they're strapped into it so that they can make like bow attacks and things from it. So you've got a pilot and a gunner basically on these gliders.
Why are you spoiling this?
Because it's going to be $29.90 when we get to it. So
That's fair. That's fair. No, that again, it is. I mean, it's a role playing setting. So I mean, if they're going to put out more books, obviously they're going to come up with more, just goofy stuff. So but I think for just sticking to what they put in the campaign setting book, I think they're like some of it. It's just like okay, a lot of it is more just like flavor equipment, like dense wood or leaf weave or whatever.
yeah.
You don't have to use it, but it's something that a game master could easily use just to put those little touches on it. You're encountering an Aranel elf. Okay, well, don't describe that, mithril armor that it's wearing. Describe, the leaf weave or whatever. That would just make it feel a bit more appropriate. So,
and I mean, like, there's also the aspect of if you're playing a paladin or cleric of the Church of the Silver Flame, a mark of where you are in the church might be the fact that you've been bestowed a flame touched iron weapon.
Yeah.
Because I mean, demons and devils are technically classed as Dalkir, and if you're frequently going out to exercise the Rakshasa, you want that flame touch sword by your side at all times.
Right. Or, you want the BS sword.
Yeah.
So, but again, there's like either the stuff is like very Eberron specific, or it's just going to be some like nice flavor touches. And it's dry, but I think it was a fun chapter.
Yeah.
So,
it had a lot of interesting flavor to it.
Yeah. So, all right. So now for special rants by Seraphis.
Okay, so this annoys me because it's not addressed into another book, which fine, but this page specifically outlines that this is an artificer working on a special job, right?
Right.
The item she's wearing over her eye is clearly an artificer's monocle.
Clearly. What else would it be?
These are specialized tools that artificers have access to because it basically requires a knowledge class feature, basically. And there's essentially only 2 classes from the player's handbook and in Eberron that have such a thing, and that's an artificer and a bard. So, and these basically provide improved detect magic and identify and things like that. So essentially she's using this to like get into the finer details of enchanting or making the necessary repairs to fully reconstruct the item that she's working on, right?
Sure.
However, if you look in the other 2 books, the Player's Guide to Eberron and or the Magic Item Compendium for 3.5, you will notice the 2 representations of a artificer's monocle look different to this, and in fact, each one of them looks different to the other. I want to just say that for the love of God, it artificers make these themselves. They all look different.
Actually, here. We'll even do this because we're gonna need this window anyways. So,
yep, the Artificer's Monocle, Children of Dragon's Blood. That's from the Magic Item Compendium for 3.5. And the one directly below, yep, that one there with the eye on it. Yep, that one's from the Player's Guide.
Got it. So, yeah, like I'm actually kind of surprised that there's no. I mean, well, here's one with a double lens. So now it's just glasses.
Yeah, but that could also be Kenneth goggles as well.
That it's a goblin, so maybe not. Or so. Anyways, my point is like. Apparently, according to Seraphis, this is a massive catastrophe in the Eberron community.
No, it's not necessarily it's a massive catastrophe. It's that frequently you'll see them only reproduced in either of those 2 styles. Either it's a freaking monocle, like that,
right?
That's attached, or it's like this, like thing that you put over your eye to investigate something, and then you could remove it. There's no like, as that artwork showed, the artificer with essentially a
like a leather
eye patch,
yeah,
with the mechanical artificer monocle, like built onto it, for permanent use. Like that's what annoys me.
I get that. I mean, I will take your word for it. I'm mostly confused here because this little ring isn't attached to anything.
I think it's meant to be attached on the left-hand side of her.
No, this little ring.
Like, yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
Like right here.
Yeah, no, I get.
Isn't attached to anything.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying I think it's meant to be because there's no other lenses or anything showing any kind of connection.
I'm just saying that's what I'm going to complain about.
Oh, yeah. That's fine.
So, anyways, folks, do with that what you will. But in the interest of time, we're going to end it there because now we're going to have our little, special segment about space and Eberron.
Space.
Now, this is from keith-baker.com, where he literally has just like a whole bunch of articles, about Eberron. So,
And I would generally consider these to be more canon than anything WotC produced after 3rd edition.
I mean, so would I. Like it's literally from the guy that created it. I don't see any reason to not include that. So, anyways, so let's see. I think like we'll just play this by ear as far as what we're gonna do it. Okay,
Just do paragraph by paragraph.
Sure. All right. Nearly a quarter of exploring Eberron is devoted to the plains of Eberron, providing a deeper look into these different layers of reality. While this addresses the supernatural cosmology of Eberron, my Patreon supporters have posed a number of questions tied to the material plane. What do the people of Eberron know about the physical universe beyond Eberron? What is the nature of the moons? Could there be a space race in Eberron? Others have raised more practical questions. How do the many moons of Eberron affect its tides? Wouldn't the destruction of a moon have had even more cataclysmic results than have been suggested?
Ultimately, this begins with a crucial question. What is the material plane? In the myth of the progenitors, a tale told in some form by nearly every culture, the 3 progenitors work together to create 13 planes. Each one is an idealized exploration of a particular concept: life, death, war, peace. Following this effort, they rest in the emptiness that lies at the center of the planes. There, the progenitors quarrel. Kyber kills Sybaris and tears him apart. Eberron enfolds Kyber and becomes the world itself, forming a living prison she cannot escape.
Whether this is truth or metaphor, it is a basic explanation for a natural phenomenon. Eberron is the world and source of natural life. It is surrounded by the shattered ring of Sybaris, and it contains Kyber. Whether or not Eberron was once a noble dragon who imprisoned another dragon, it is a natural world that surrounds and imprisons a source of fiends and aberrations.
Eberron and its material plane lies between the 13 planes. It is influenced by all of them, but it's not part of any of them. It's a world that knows both war and peace, life and death.
By canon, Eberron is the sole planet in its material plane. Beyond this, when people dream in Eberron, their spirits go to Dalcor. When they die, they go to Dolur. There are no accounts of people encountering spirits from other material worlds in either plane.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean that I think is kind of interesting because I thought I had actually read somewhere that, and maybe I'd seen it in this article or when we were doing the Magic of Eberron, that I actually thought I read somewhere that it's technically like in the planes with the other realms, like, you know, Greyhawk and Faerun and whatnot. But it's just isolated. So maybe I misread something.
It is isolated in the phlogiston. It exists within its own crystal sphere, like all other settings do, but it doesn't have any currents that pass from any of the known worlds to the Eberron crystal sphere, which is generally known as cyberspace. Cyberspace.
Okay. Kyberspace. I was like, that's almost
Dark.
good there. Anyways, all right, let's keep going.
Me, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. So the first thing to bear in mind, there is nothing natural about the universe of Eberron. The story of the progenitors might be fact or it could be mere myth, but Eberron does appear to be the center of its material plane. It is the fulcrum of the 13 planes, the point where they all intersect, and as shown by Dalcor and Dolur, the creatures of the material plane are tied to the other planes. Dig below the surface of Eberron, and you won't simply find a molten core, you'll find the demiplanes of Kyber. you can go down a tunnel in the Moorholds, walk 5 miles, and come out in Zendrick, which is to say, there is a supernatural reality. Arcane and divine magic. Side effects of this. Eberron is suffused with a fundamental force that doesn't exist in our world. Now, this may be because Eberron as a setting is a created artifact, that some form of the myth of the progenitors is true. Or it could be the result of undirected evolution. But that doesn't change the fact that it is a supernatural reality, fundamentally different from the universe that we know.
So that's where I'm going to struggle. So
How's that?
Just I mean, I get it, but the fundamentally different from the universe that we know, because as you're reading that, I'm starting like, well, okay, so Eberron has a sun and it's going around the sun. Are there other planets? Anyways, we're gonna get there, I'm assuming.
So sorry, went to talk and I burped instead. So in cyberspace, there is only the sun and the planet of Eberron. There isn't. Oh, and the moons and
why are
the
you
ring of Cyprus.
spoiling it? We'll get there. I just said it's probably going to be in the article.
But my point is that you'll find that the setup is always going to be different no matter which crystal sphere you're looking at. If you look at the grey space for the Greyhawk setting, you'll see, that there's, 13 planets in their system or something like that. Dragonlance has 7, I think. And I can't remember whether it's Oerth or Toril. One of them is the center of their system, and the sun and the other planets rotate around it.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, regardless, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to this article. I tried to read it ahead of time, folks. I got busy. All right. This initial section examines the known facts about the celestial objects of Eberron. This is followed by a discussion of the possible space race, which goes into more detail about what might be found on the moons or in the ring. Lest it go without saying, this is my vision of Eberron and may contradict existing source books.
In a good way, and only in a good way. This came out during 5th edition, and there's nothing redeemable about 5th edition. The sun and the stars. Oh, isn't that nice? In the progenitor myth, the 3 progenitors rested in the material plane after creating the planes. They created the sun, Ara, much as mortals might kindle a campfire. This fire remained even after their battle and continues to provide light, heat, and comfort in the world. Ara is rarely mentioned because it functions much like the sun we're used to. It's good that it's there, but you definitely wouldn't want to visit it. In the Sovereign Host, Dolara is the sovereign of the sun and sacrifice. Her name is essentially the warrior sun.
As for the stars, there are stars in the sky of Eberron, but they aren't the anchors of distant solar systems. There are limits to the material plane, and the stars mark those limits. Whether or not you embrace the concepts of Spelljammer, you can think of them as glittering points in the shell of a crystal sphere. The common constellations are figures of ancient dragons, Io, Tiamat, Chronepsis, though most can't actually say where these names come from. It's generally assumed that they were handed down by one of the ancient kingdoms of Sarlona or established by the ancestors of the Arani. In fact, this is a tradition that was spread by dragons as they moved secretly among the lesser races.
Just quickly, I believe it's Io, not Io. However, slight error on Keith's part, because it's not Tiamat. That would be a constellation representing Tarkesis.
Yes, exactly.
Tarkesis is the original.
Yes. I agree with you.
You don't know this, do you?
No.
Tarkesis is the original 5-headed dragon goddess. She's from the Dragonlance campaign.
Yeah, but didn't they come out with Dragonlance after they introduced Tiamat?
Yes, and they establish in the lore that Tarkesis is the original, and it's her, essentially her spreading of her aspects that exist as Tiamat in all the other realms.
Ah, okay.
So if she were to bring herself back together again, she would be unconscionably powerful.
Got it. But instead, she split up into Tiamat and spread amongst the realms.
Yes, because it draws followers to her.
All right, fair enough.
It's part of her long play of trying to take over Quinn Space.
Got it.
Yeah. The Ring of Sybaris. The closest celestial object is the Ring of Sybaris, a brilliant equatorial band of light that dominates the sky. We know that the ring is comprised of Sybaris dragon shards because it's where those dragon shards come from. Most fallen shards are quite small, but it's there.
But there are. Just skip its.
But there are definitely larger shards in the ring. The civilization of Karbarin elves of Zendrick was destroyed when the Ring of Storms was struck by a massive dragon shard, now known as the Heart of Sybaris. It's possible that the entire ring is made up of pure dragon shards, or it could be that there are shards embedded in in more inert material. Perhaps the petrified flesh of an ancient cosmic dragon.
One of the more popular schools of arcane thought maintains that all arcane magic, and perhaps divine magic as well, manipulates energy that radiates from the ring. That magic itself is the blood of Sybaris. Whether or not this is true, Sybaris dragon shards are an extremely valuable resource. Sybaris shards are used for dragon mark focus items, but per Rising from the Last War, they are also used for eldritch machines or the creation of legendary items or artifacts. A nation or house that can secure a reliable source of Sybaris shards will have a huge advantage in advancing arcane science. It's also possible that an outpost in the ring could harness the ambient energy of the ring itself to perform epic magic. So the Ring of Sybaris is close to Eberron and unquestionably valuable. If a space race begins, it's the logical first step.
Okay, well, look, I know he's got to keep incorporating what the different editions do because what's he? But look, I wanna take the stance of the creator should be listened to first from the community and then Wizards of the Coast, because Ed Greenwood's stuff is so much better than Wizards of the Coast's Forgotten Realms.
So I want to agree, but I have to put in a qualifier.
Yep.
Okay. Keith Baker, while he did create this, also didn't create it.
Yes.
Remember, he put in a proposal, and then essentially it was worked on by committee.
Yes. He was on that committee.
Oh, no. He was like the key to the committee.
Yeah.
But
it's like him and 5 other people are technically the creators of Eberron.
Right, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm still going to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, like we're reading this article and we're giving it credit because it's Keith Baker. But I think Eberron has a little bit more leeway for other people to come in and say like, no, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah. And when they do that, I do utterly respect their point and will compare it with what Keith said. If there's
conflict,
if there's conflict, I will see. I will give them both the merit that they deserve. But if one isn't contradicting the other, both are valid.
Right? No, exactly. Because I mean, there's going to be places where Keith Baker. I mean, let's be honest. Part of this is funded from a Patreon. So, these are things that people want him to opine on. And WotC may never get to it. So,
and let's be fair, Ed Greenwood is currently doing the exact same thing too. So,
yeah. So, okay, real quick, folks, I am going to point out there's this link here in this article. It does link to a Wizards of the Coast article that no longer exists, but I found it in Wayback Machine. So I will have it linked in the description, but, if you go to this on his website, you won't get there from there.
But Brian, are you honestly saying that a blog post that was merely 4 years old is linking to something that should have been current and relevant, and now it doesn't exist?
Yes.
But WatchSeed keeps assuring us that they're going to keep it all alive.
I know. There's no risk to digital content. All right, let's move.
Yeah.
You're up.
Oh, that's right. Got distracted. The moons. 12 orbiting moons are visible from Eberron. Each moon goes through standard lunar phases, and during the month that shares its name, the moon enters an ascendant phase. During this time, the moon is brighter than usual. Each moon is associated with certain personality traits, and it's believed that people are influenced by the moon that is ascended at the time of their birth. Canon descriptions of the moon can be found in this article. Moving beyond canon, something suggested but never defined, there's a further complication because the moons are also tied to the planes, and each moon enters its ascendant phase when its associated plane is coterminous and becomes unusually dim when the plane is remote. So while unusual, it's possible for there to be 2 or 3 ascendant moons at a particular time if multiple coterminous periods converge.
Yeah, that. Let's just say there are some contradictions, because especially like from what we read last time, some of them was like, oh, this plane is going to be waxing or waning for 100 years, but then in this article it's like, oh, it's associated with the moon, and by the way, they're coming up like a couple times a month maybe. So it's like, okay.
See, the way I usually interpret that is, as we talked about last time, that it is associated with what does the DM need this to be?
Yeah. No, I get that, but it's one of the, like I said, I told you I was going to struggle with the fact that the Eberron universe doesn't necessarily work like our universe does, because that's how my brain is.
Yeah, but I mean, you could say that about any of the D&D worlds when you bring it up to Spelljammer level, because why is there air in space?
Reasons?
Why do we sail from one crystal sphere to another crystal sphere on rainbow waves?
Because surfboards are cool? I've got nothing.
Why can we hop fight across asteroids in the wild space inside a crystal sphere, basically doing weird space versions of Pirates of the Caribbean?
Look, I get it. It's fantasy. I understand. I'm just saying, my brain keeps wanting to apply stellar mechanics to this, what little I understand of them.
No, I get that, right? Because I too very much into my space stuff, but at the same time, all this stuff, everything that was built on original second edition Spelljammer comes from ideas that people actually thought back in was it 15th century or whatever?
Right.
Even the term Spelljammer is a take on the slang term for sailors, which was Windjammer.
That's completely fair. Anyways, all right. The connection between the planes and the moons is reinforced by the fact that within a plane, the associated moon is the only one that can be seen in the sky. Assuming that any moon can be seen, not all planar layers have a visible sky. However, the phase of the moon doesn't match its current phase on Eberron. It may be fixed in a single phase, such as in Lamania, where the moon is always full, or it could change from layer to layer.
By canon law, no humanoid has ever visited one of the moons. Because of this, their nature remains a mystery. They could be similar to the moon of Earth, harsh and barren. It's possible that they aren't planetoids at all, but are in fact planar gateways. That a vessel that tried to land on Travago will find itself in Risaya. This would explain why the moons don't have the expected impact on tides. It may be that they don't actually have any mass. A third option lies between these two, that the moons are habitable planetoids that are strongly influenced by the planes they are tied to. The moon Volt isn't inhabited by the angels and demons of Shavarath, but it could be home to societies of tieflings and Azamar locked in an endless war. Though unlike the immortals of Shavarath, the people of Volt might decide to turn their aggressive attention to Eberron.
The space race. Well, and actually, before we get to that, so this, I actually kind of like the third option. That it's like it could be habitable. It doesn't necessarily have to be, but then it's something similar. So like the plane of fire is like a lava planet or lava moon or whatever. I actually prefer that idea over, it's just a gateway to the plane. Like I would make it like if you're going to actually, quote unquote spell jam this, I would make it that there are many more gateways to that particular plane on the moon, but I would still leave it as, a natural moon, as it were.
I think it's also funny that with this having come out in 2020, that it was like 4 years earlier when I codified the setting my friends and I had been playing, that I had actually changed or made in our setting that our moons, the moons around our world, were like essentially that third option, that they were connected to 3 specific planes, and that in return they actually had people on them. There were civilizations up on those moons.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. Like again, it's a gateway to the plane. So yeah, it could be habitable. It's habitable by the people that would live in the plane. So yeah, I have
or material plane versions of them, like it said, the
right.
Asmar and Tieflings.
Right. Yes. That is a much better way to put it. All right. By canon, Eberron is the only planet in its material plane. Between the planes and the demi-planes of Kyber, there's ample opportunity for adventurers to explore strange new worlds, and deep space exploration was never planned as part of the setting. We don't need to have alien invaders come from a distant planet when we already have alien invaders crawling out of Zoriat. Nothing stopping the DM from going full Spelljammer and breaking through the wall of stars, but by default, that's not the story Eberron was designed to tell. And that actually, I think, is like the key. That's not the story Eberron was designed to tell. It's fun to have this little discussion, but I mean, there is something to what's the author's intent. And yeah, I totally see that it wasn't designed that way, but there's still questions.
I can tell you one thing. The whole reason why my DM wanted a artificer was because they had previously tried with someone playing a Warforged and it didn't really work out. But he saw my enthusiasm for like the Eberron setting and was like, how about you try an Artificer? And I was like, look, if that's the direction you really want here, that's fine. I'll do that. But be warned, evil. I will try not to, but by my mere presence, I will break the balance of the campaign.
That's fair.
However, you don't have to go into deep space to have a space race. The Ring of Sybaris is a clear target for any advanced nation. Sybaris dragon shards are an immensely valuable resource. Now that the 5 nations are using dragon shards in an industrial capacity and can see the potential of Sybaris shards, it's only logical that people would be looking to the skies and dreaming of the power waiting to be claimed. Beyond the ring, you have the moons. Perhaps they're barren orbs, but if they're planar gateways, they could be the key to serious planar exploration. And if they're manifest worlds that could hold unknown wonders, and if they're so there's clearly something to be gained from reaching for the sky. And just as in our world, a space race gives a clear, tight focus for the current Cold War. The people of the 5 nations may be afraid to start the last war anew, but which nation will be the first to plant their flag in the Ring of Sybaris?
And I think that is a great, like a great way to just set like a long-term campaign.
I will say, I think an interesting divide there would be if the 5 nations aren't necessarily trying to beat each other, but they're all co-funding the Wayfinder Foundation instead to do it.
Right.
And then because of that, it draws the ire of the Dragons of Argoness and the inspired from Salona, the Drow tribes from Zendrick, who then create the Cold War kind of scenario that way.
Or just a Dragon Mark house going rogue. Like the gnomes of Zilargo trying to come up with they built everyone else's ships. So okay, we're gonna do this because then how much more can we charge? How much more can we do? How much more can we control? Because remember, the Dragon Mark houses are all extra national organizations. They don't belong to any of the 5 nations. So they're absolutely part of this Cold War.
True, but at the same time, they are all held to the, shall we say, truce between the houses as well, their neutrality. If one went rogue, the others might, reenact a small version of the War of the Mark and remove that house.
No, I'm just saying something that you can do with it. So,
sure.
Let's see. In dealing with the space race, there's a few questions to consider. What are the obstacles that have to be overcome? Who's in the race? Who's already up there? And what might people find?
Obstacles. If all that it takes to reach the moons is to fly straight up, people would have done it a long time ago. Even though airships are a relatively recent innovation, well, for some people, surely in 3 decades, someone has determined just how high they can go. And while airships may be new, brooms of flying and similar devices have been around. If there's no obstacles, there's no tension, and if it's hard to explain why it hasn't... I read that out wrong somewhere. It hasn't happened. Yeah, at the same time, this isn't our reality, and there's no reason that the obstacles to space travel should be the same obstacles that we had to overcome. So as a DM planning a space race, consider the following factors.
Gravity. If you have to escape the gravity of Eberron to reach the Ring of Sybaris, it's easy to say that no standard methods of flight provide sufficient velocity to accomplish this. This provides room for different nations to be exploring different approaches to attaining that velocity. Elemental binding is an option. How many elementals can you bind to a vessel? Another option is to expand on the arcane principles of levitation. Perhaps burning Sybaris shards provide a temporary surge of energy. A more exotic option would be to abandon flight in favor of teleportation. Imagine flinging a teleport circle anchor at the target. I like all of those. I mean, and those are things that you could do. Like, like, okay, so maybe you bind an elemental, but even for an air elemental, like the further it gets from the ground, maybe it starts to lose cohesion. Maybe it starts to lose its ability. Like, even though it's an air elemental, air works better when it's compressed closer towards the ground. So, yeah, these are all really good questions.
I really do love that last sentence, though. Flinging teleport circles to basically like like mini teleport yourself distances up. That would be a lot of fun.
Yes.
Like, what would be a version of that? Like, I guess it's kind of like the Riker maneuver, maybe from Star Trek, like mini warp jumps.
Right.
Yeah. I like. I don't know why that just tickles me a little bit. So, cosmic rays. The Ring of Sybaris is thought by many to be the source of arcane energy. If so, this radiation could be lethal without proper protection. Alternatively, the energy might be harmless, but it could overload unprotected enchantments. Until people figure out how to protect against this surge, all magical systems could burn out and shut down in the vicinity of the Ring of Sybaris. This could form a deadly layer around the entire planet, or this could be a way to explain why people are aiming for the moons instead of the ring, because they can't safely get close to the ring, but they can avoid it.
Right. Like, I mean, like supposedly how the Apollo astronauts avoided the Van Allen belts and all of their radiation. So, I mean, that's a nice, easy adaptation.
Yep.
Oxygen. At what point does the air become too thin to breathe? Is there a vacuum between Eberron and the moons? Because this isn't natural space, it could be that there is breathable air throughout the entire system, or that the ring or the moons have atmosphere. Or it could be that the atmosphere largely behaves the way that we're used to. If oxygen is an obstacle, it doesn't affect the design of a vessel, but travelers will need to have a solution. Spells and magic items that allow people to breathe underwater could be adapted for this purpose. It's possible that the same item could work both underwater or in the Ring of Sybaris.
Hostile environment. In our world, space travel may require you to deal both with extreme cold or heat. Is the Ring of Sybaris shrouded in bitter cold, or is it mysteriously maintained at a comfortable temperature? Chapter 5 of the DMG provides basic guidelines for dealing with extreme cold. This is for the 5th edition version. Extreme cold, extreme heat, or high altitude. These could be intensified to reflect a truly alien environment, either reducing the time between required saving throws or amplifying the effects of failure. This could also be a factor in vessel design. Airships are made of sawwood. Will a wooden ship burn up on re-entry?
Or can you just magic it, to protect it? Just like a wall of force or something.
But then we get to the other point. Is the Ring of Sybaris creating a massive anti-magic field, or the opposite, a supercharged magic field, and will it burn out the enchantment?
Well, that's what we're going to have to determine when we go to space in Eberron.
In the next Dragon Marks.
Who's in the race? The idea of a space race is that there's a sense of tension and competition. The Ring of Sybaris is too vast for any nation to claim dominion over it. But the first nation to establish an outpost in the ring or on the moons will have the first opportunity to explore the environment, to harness its resources, and to establish contact with whatever creatures could be found there. The idea is that no nation or dragon-marked house has had unlimited access to Sybaris shards. No one knows what could be done with that reliable source. So for purposes of the story, people should know who's in the race. Adventures could involve helping an allied power gain the resources it needs to advance, or acting to block a rival power. So who's in the race? One option is
to focus on the 5 nations. This is about Breland, Under, and Karnath racing to the sky. A second option is to make it a rivalry between house and nation. Perhaps it's about the 12 competing against the space program of the Arcane Congress.
Personally, my inclination is to focus on the 5 nations, emphasizing that the last war has been replaced by a Cold War. But I'd also throw in additional alliances. House Cannith is involved with everyone. It's split in 3, and the house thus wins in any scenario. But part of the question is who wins. It could be generally understood that the Cannith faction that wins the space race will also claim the leadership of the house. So here's the factions I'd use in my space race.
Under, the Dragonhawk Initiative. Under's space program is an alliance between the Arcane Congress, Cannith West, under Jolana de Carnath, and House Orion. While they are exploring all possibilities, the Dragonhawk Initiative is focusing on teleportation. There are 3 current paths under investigation. Direct teleportation, which also requires scrying to confirm the target point. Physical projection of an object that serves as a teleportation circle, or using a passage through a plane to cross space. Thalanis and Zoriat are the planes most tied to these efforts. There is a branch of the Dragonhawk exploring traditional levitation, but leadership is convinced that teleportation is the cleanest and safest approach.
Breland, the King's Observatory. The Observatory is a branch of the King's Citadel formed in alliance with Zelargo, Cannith South, under Merrick's de Cannith, and House Lorandar. While they are exploring traditional levitation techniques, the observatory is primarily focused on building a better elemental airship, overcoming the obstacles with elemental binding and Cannith ingenuity. Merrick's has been experimenting with living ships, a step that could render Lorandar pilots obsolete. Sarania and Fernia are the planes most associated with their efforts.
Karnath, the Blades of Sybaris. The Blade is an alliance between the Karnathi Crown, Cannith East, under Zolan de Carnath, and a number of wealthy individuals. Antis Soldarak brings tremendous wealth and mineral resources to the table. Alina Lyris is an expert transmuter and owns the richest Kyber shard mines in Corvair. The fact that they're both members of the Platinum Concord of the Aurum is a remarkable coincidence. The Blade of Sybaris is primarily interested in reaching the ring rather than the moons. It is focused on traditional magic of flight, but Zolan is exploring ways necromancy could be used to solve this problem. Ghost astronauts? A shadow engine that draws on the power of the endless night? These efforts involve the Mabaran manifest zones in Karnath, but they are considering the potential of other planes. The Blade is also very focused on the military potential of this program, and any Karnathi space vessel will be heavily armed.
All right. I couldn't let Kim's calls for help get through. All right. Thrain is currently a minor player in the race, though the Argentum is exploring the possibilities for an engine that harnesses the power of the Silver Flame itself. Likewise, New Sire lacks the resources to compete with these main players. But Orgev dreams of establishing a true New Sire on Olarun.
Who's already up there? The 5 nations may be working to win the space race, but someone else likely won that race long ago. The dragons of Arganessen are an ancient and advanced civilization. and believe themselves to be the children of Eberron and Sybaris. If it's possible to reach the Ring of Sybaris, they surely did it a long time ago. They could use outposts in the ring to watch for the appearance of prophecy marks, and the epic magics unleashed in the destruction of Zendrick may well have been channeled through Sybaris shards harvested from the ring. However, the Ring of Sybaris is vast and the dragons are secretive. Their outposts are surely well hidden, both physically and magically. Having said that, the dragons may not have bothered to explore the moons, so they could be a truly unexplored frontier.
The giants of ancient Zendrick were also powerful and advanced. Both the Kulsir Dominion and the Group of 11 explored the plains. Either one could have ventured into space. Any giant outpost in the Ring of Sybaris would have been destroyed by the dragons when they laid waste to Zendrick, but there could still be ruins in the ring. And if a DM wants to introduce a powerful force of giants or Empyreans, they could have used a powerful sequester effect to conceal a base in the ring or on one of the moons.
The Undying Court aren't involved in the space race. The Ascendant Councillors explore the universe in astral form and have no need to do it physically. The Lords of Dust don't have any outposts of their own, but they are surely watching all the participants in the space race. As the fiends of the Children of Kyber, it's possible that the pure essence of Sybaris is essentially repellent to them, that any fiend that approaches the ring will be destroyed.
These are creatures of Eberron who might have settled above it. Possible natives are discussed below. Exploring the Ring of Sybaris. The Ring of Sybaris is the logical first step in the space race. Being closer than the moons and having a clear strategic value, if the DM would rather focus on the moons, the magical energies of the ring can be deadly to living creatures. If the ring is the destination, the first question is whether the ring has gravity and atmosphere. This is the most magical place in existence, so anything is possible. The next question is whether the ring is in fact entirely comprised of massive dragon shards, or if the bulk of it is some other material. It could be a soft stone that some might see as the calcified flesh of an ancient dragon. Even if there is an atmosphere, the ring is entirely barren. People may be able to dig into it or build structures on the surface, but there's no natural sources of food or water. Travelers will need to either have strong supply lines or more likely to come prepared with ways to magically create food and water.
Well, thank God there's a lovely magical item called a Ring of Sustenance then.
Right?
Magic is dramatically enhanced with the ring. One option is that all spells cast in the ring benefit from the distance spell and extended spell metamagic options represented in the sorcerer class, or in general in 3.5. But it's difficult to channel this power. If the DM uses this option, all spells casting carries the risk of sorcerer's wild magic search, which in 3.5 would probably translate to the Rod of Wonder table effects. With time, it could be that spellcasters could learn unique spells that can only be cast in the magic-rich environment of the ring.
Even if the energies of the ring aren't directly lethal, they can produce many dangerous effects. Just as the energies of the ring can be used to produce fireballs and lightning bolts, the ring produces dramatic, unnatural weather effects, bursts of fire, acid rain, illusory manifestations, psychic storms. The ring also produces living spells, which linger for a time before being absorbed back into the ring. Other native creatures are rare, given the difficulty of surviving in the ring. However, just as the Rakshasa are said to be the children of Kyber, the native celestials of Eberron, the Kuatl, are said to have been born of Sybaris. While most of the Kuatl sacrifice their existence to bind the overlords, there could be a few powerful celestials still bound to the ring. Given that Thrain isn't a major player in the space race, the first explorers could be surprised to discover the embodiments of the silver flame itself in the Ring of Sybaris.
Wouldn't that be something?
And this is this Legends link is another link to an article that no longer exists.
But how could that be?
I don't know, because they would never you know, like not maintain online content that they've provided.
There's another exotic possibility. Legends speak of the Isvan, winged kobolds said to be blessed by Cerberus. According to these tales, the Isvan live on the peaks of the tallest mountains. But what if they're actually natives of the Ring of Cerberus? What powers might these children of the Ring possess? I have never heard of these things.
It is a web article. Here. The Kobolds of Eberron. So, how are kobolds different in Eberron? Because remember, in 3.5, kobolds are basically like little baby dragons. So they've got to be related to the dragon somehow.
Yeah, I know that. Just
anyhow, coming soon, maybe. All right, exploring the moons. Exploring Eberron provides more details about the planes and will prove a useful resource whether the moons are planar portals or merely strongly influenced by the planes. The main difference between the planar portal and the idea of the manifest world is the degree to which the adventurers can have a lasting impact, and the degree to which the world is an entirely new frontier. The planes are known, even if mortals don't visit them regularly, and the planes cannot be fundamentally changed. On the other hand, manifest worlds are an opportunity to explore entirely new and alien realms, to have first contact with unknown cultures. This is another way to introduce exotic races or elements from other settings. Perhaps Loxodons are from Olorun. All right. So at this point, I mean, that was a lot. I think there's a lot of really good information that does kind of give a lot of just like good ideas for it doesn't even have to be a Spelljammer adventure. I just like some of the ideas in general.
yeah, because it does hit back upon that whole inspiration of what an Eberron campaign would be, where you've got that, espionage, that intrigue, the detective work,
Oh, that's even. You know what? I totally did not pick up on that when it was talking about, essentially a Cold War aspect. And that is exactly how you should run something like this. Just run it, 1980s Cold War, just, perfect excuses to spy on other nations, spy amongst the houses. I mean, there's a lot of good information. But folks, we are going to skip the Q&A section. There is a lot of good information in there, but we've already gone for 2 hours. And so what we're going to do is we will come back to this in a future episode when we've got another chapter that's kind of small and, has some time available. So if you want to read it on your own, I'll have it linked down below so that way, you can go see the article itself. But otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Seraphis, any last closing thoughts that you want to provide?
In the interest of time, mostly no. Also, I'm getting close to, well, look, it's after midnight here, well after, so yeah.
Right. So, all right. Well, I won't make Seraphis say anything else. Folks, thanks so much for watching. We will be back live next week at the same usual time, 5 p.m. Arizona time. Okay. So whatever time it is, wherever you're at. But
the future.
Yeah, the future, maybe. But do come back, join us. We're gonna start digging into life in Eberron, so it's gonna be a lot of lore dump. We are going to edit it very heavily. We're not going to be reading everything like we have been in the previous chapters.
It's 100 pages. Just no.
Yeah, exactly. We're barely getting through about 20 pages at a time. I'm not spending 5 weeks reading you the lore of Eberron. So we'll pick up like the high points, the cool things, and we'll go through there. But absolutely, come back, ask us questions, let us know what you'd like to see from this, because we're having a blast doing it, and we hope you're enjoying it as well. So thanks again for watching. Also, folks, I keep forgetting to do this, so I do apologize. But Seraphis does have his own channel. It is linked to this in the description. Please go give him a subscribe. Let's get him moving along. So that he can maybe one day do something productive with his channel. I don't know. We'll see. But
I refuse to be monetized.
Fair enough. All right. Anyways, say goodbye, Seraphis.
Goodbye, Seraphis.